Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are around the world. My name is Sarah Bandagenchev. I coordinate the work with the land ambassadors and land heroes at the United Nations Convention to combat desertification. I will be your moderator today from our headquarters here in Bonn, Germany. Today is a very significant day, not just for women, girls, and the men who support us, but also for the convention. It is the International Women's Day under the theme Gender Equality Today for a Sustainable Future, recognizing the contribution of women and girls around the world who are leading the change of climate change adaptation, mitigation, response to build a more sustainable future for all. The UNCCD has officially recognized the central role of women in sustainable development, land management, drought mitigation, land restoration, and in advancing land degradation neutrality. In many regions of the world, women are in charge of feeding the families, caring for children and those who fall ill, and ensuring water provision for household tasks and hygiene. In taking on these responsibilities, they apply their talents and ingenuity to find creative and sustainable solutions. We are delighted to have this terrific panel today featuring the UNCCD land ambassadors and land heroes. They will share with us their perspectives on the contribution of women and girls to addressing land degradation, drought, and desertification globally. Let me welcome all of you today to what I am certain to be a very vibrant and thoughtful discussion. Welcome, everybody. The first one that I would like to introduce is the former president of the Republic of Finland from 2000 to March 2012, and Finland's first female head of state. She has held and still holds various numerous international honorary positions. And social justice and the promotion of equality have remained core issues in her political career. She's our UNCCD land ambassador, Her Excellency Tarja Halonen. Welcome, Your Excellency.
Thank you, Sarah. Dear friends, dear fellow land ambassadors, and dear young land heroes. Yes, I am Tarja Halonen, and I'm honored to discuss with you today on International Women's Day. It's very fine that we have this discussion just today because gender equality is one of the biggest challenges in sustainable development. First, the consequences of the climate crisis disproportionately affect women and girls. And second, we still continue to be largely missing women from the decision in making tables, and it is really a big loss of the resources. So growing inequality is really a threat that we simply cannot afford. If we fail to tap women's potential in this urgent situation of the world, so we are also jeopardizing even our common future. So we must ensure that women have equal opportunities to participate and lead in building sustainable future for all. Equality also means recognizing the richness of diversity. That is what we need in the fight also against climate change and biodiversity loss. Women have special knowledge and experience that can be used in creating and adopting sustainable practices. So, and this is very, very important because, for example, we cannot rely solely on the development of the technical solutions, but we also need to deepen our understanding of the individual and social dimension to put these solutions into practice. Women's ability to listen is key to the latter. So Really, dear friends, Norman Borlaug, winner of the Nobel Peace Prize in her time, once said that you can't build peace on empty stomachs. Women in rural communities know the linkages between peace and food, as they play an important role in ensuring food security in households. In some cases, women are the majority, such as small farmers in Africa or in Asia. However, only 14 of agricultural landowners are women. So, and that we don't remember always when we are making this cooperation in development. So, and this needs to change as a women's participation in food production, planning, and decision making is a critical prerequisite for equality. Education can be very, very important way to achieve this. In Finland, in my own country, the Faculty of Agriculture and Forestry in Helsinki University, for instance, is attracting more and more applicants, and today more than half of the faculty's new students are women. So the role of women in Finland's sustainable food transition has been enormous. For example, two of the most important vegetable protein innovations have been developed, you guess, by women. So, to conclude, gender equality cannot be treated in isolation from environment. It is like all in Agenda 2030, everything is connected to each other. So I'm very, very thrilled, interested, looking forward to discussing with you and your experiences. Thank you very much to get this opportunity to speak.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. Really, women participation in agriculture, education, healthcare, peace is really key, and we cannot separate this. I would like to introduce another amazing person that the UNCCD works with, and this is he's a Grammy Award winner and also internationally renowned Indian musician, composer. He's an environmentalist, and he has performed in over 30 countries, including the United Nations headquarters in New York and Geneva. We've also had the privilege actually to have him here in Bonn before. And he has won over 100 music awards in 20 countries. And he has now been actually nominated for this year's Grammy with his latest album, Divine Tides, with rock legend Stewart Copeland, The Police. So, Ricky Cage, welcome. Happy to have you here today.
Thank you so much, and a very happy International Women's Day to everyone over here. And I'm really, really honored to represent the UNCCD for this panel, and of course a huge honor to be on the same panel as Her Excellency, the former President of Finland, and the land heroes. And as mentioned in my introduction, I'm a musician and a composer, and the only kind of music that I make is about the environment, sustainability, and positive social impact. So I'm just really excited to be a part of this panel and discuss with all my fellow panelists.
Thank you, Ricky, for making time. We have another amazing lady who's joining us today. Her name is Kekashin Basu. She's an iconic global influencer. She's an environmentalist. She's a champion of women and children's rights. She's been a TEDx speaker. She's a musician, a speaker, peace and sustainability campaigner. But also she founded the Green Hope Foundation, which provides a platform of engagement and empowerment of children and youth. And she's also the UNCCD land hero. Welcome to Kekashin.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, everybody, for making time. To start off with our dialogue, I would like to welcome and invite Kekashin to just give an overview of what she does, her work, so that we get to have an understanding of what she's actually doing on the ground. Over to you, Kekashin.
Absolutely. As was mentioned, I am the founder president of Green Hope Foundation, which is a global social innovation enterprise that works across 26 countries using education for sustainable development to empower children, young people, women, and girls in the sustainable development process. And one of the main areas of work that we do is on stopping land degradation, ensuring land degradation neutrality, and addressing the very gendered impacts of land degradation, particularly in the world's most rural land-based communities. So, for instance, we work with in communities that are also faced with the digital divide, for instance, land dependent communities in the global south. And I'll give an example actually, because for us in the Western world, access to electricity is a given, but in many parts of the world, that is not the case. And then I'll give an example of one such large community in rural Bangladesh, where my organization is working since the advent of COVID-19, where they are completely cut off from they don't have any road networks, they're cut off from the cities, and they are a land-based agricultural community that have not been able to yield the crops in the season due to extreme droughts caused by climate change. So there are all of these problems that just come together to affect these land-based communities where land is traditionally the source of their livelihoods. But what we have seen is that it's really important to work with them and build that level of trust, and particularly work with the women. And what we have done is that we've installed climate smart agriculture systems. So we've installed solar powered irrigation systems and trained the women in organic farming, which enables the women particularly to have a sustainable source of income from the land, grow the crops, not cash crops that are mandated by urban areas, but actual organic crops that are best for the land. And because of the knowledge that is instilled in them right from their childhood and it's passed down from generation to generation to the women and girls, these women are now able to use that knowledge and give back to the land and then use that money to send their daughters to school. So for us, it is all about creating a local circular bioeconomy that is gender smart and led by women. And we work to localize these projects in different parts of the world so that we're truly able to create a gender smart world for all.
Thank you so much, Kekeshin. Really amazing things that you're actually doing. You're working with women and trying to support them on issues of energy, food, which we of course get from the land, and you've also mentioned that your focus is on ensuring that you have this local secular gender smart kind of approach. So that's really great to hear the amazing work that you're doing in the example you've given of Bangladesh. I'm going to move on to Ricky Cage. Ricky Cage, you do a lot of work around creating awareness in India. Your music speaks for itself. Could you please just tell us what exactly that you do and how you this year's theme, is integrated in your music and your work?
So I've always believed that from quite a young age I've always been an environmentalist, and and traveling around India I realized that that one cannot take any of the sustainable development goals in complete isolation. Everything is interlinked, and in order to get to my passion of of the environment, one has to solve a whole lot of other problems, and one has to address a whole lot of other problems. And that's why I've always had a holistic approach towards problem solving, especially in a country that is as complex as India. And my belief has always been that that with all the problems that we face, whether it's societal problems or whether it is environmental problems, which, as I said, are interlinked, the biggest issue is that everybody feels that the onus of change is on the government or on non-governmental bodies or NGOs, or basically everybody's waiting for somebody else to make a difference, when the truth is that what we require right now is behavioral change. And we can showcase a whole lot of scientific data to people, we can showcase a whole lot of speeches to people, but what actually brings about change is if you speak to people emotionally, and the only way to do that is through the arts and through music. And that is exactly what I do. I try to interpret this important scientific data and this and these important speeches and these complex ideas and thoughts into the simple language of music, so that it reaches the hearts and souls of people, and therefore we can convert all of these awareness of problems into action. And yeah, so this is, my themes have been, as I mentioned, has been largely environmental, and that's why it's going to be very much in tune with the themes of this year's COP.
Thank you so much, Ricky. And indeed, your music really does interpret the scientific findings and also issues that are kind of high-end policy into the emotional side of what people want to listen to, which is music. I think all of us actually have a link to music. So thank you so much for doing that. I'm going to turn now to President Halonen. And Your Excellency, you have been the president of Finland. And there's a lot of work that you've done around policy, and you still continue to engage on issues of equality. Could you please just tell us what you've been up to the last couple of years with regards to issues around equality?
So thank you. So yes, I am already retired as a president of the Republic, but I'm still activist in the society, and I have told you all younger ones that whatever will be your profession in the future, remember that you are always, all your life, you will be also an active member of your own society. So build it in that way. So I think that the question, what I all the time invest more and more, is the role of the education. And one key of promote equality is really through general education, but also in specific areas like an agricultural education. So women need to be in the decision-making positions, and in all countries, women have a particular knowledge and know-how that we should make more visible, so that it should be used much more. The women's position is not only a question of their own will, but also the circumstances, their land rights, property rights, the right to be in many ways active in the country. And what we have noticed in Finland, when we have worked with women's equality already more than 100 years, so that the very, very important is also your state of mind. So the question that even if you have all these material possibilities, so how the girls see themselves, how the women see themselves. And here you might need sometimes a good examples, like the women who are party leaders, who are famous people in science or in music or in politics. And that's why we should always encourage people also take this risk to become visible with a little bit bigger audience. And we should do it with the women and also the girls of all ages. Young ones, of course, but then also the elderly ones. And as I'm already grandmother, even the grandmothers.
Thank you so much, President Halonen. And you've really raised an important point, which is around education and creating this visibility around education, and not only to the women, but also to the girls as they, starting them young and ensuring that we create this visibility. So thank you so much. I'm going to move on now to Kekashin. Kekashin, you've given an example of working with an organization in Bangladesh, and you know that we have this challenge of desertification, land degradation, and drought affecting livelihoods. So in your own context, how is desertification, land degradation, and drought affecting livelihoods in the context that you work in?
Thank you for that question. I think it's a really important one that needs to be addressed, particularly in these trying times. So, first of all, I think the pandemic has exacerbated all of these different challenges. And at the same time, it's also taken away attention from these critical issues because people think that these are not interconnected, whereas the pandemic is a zoonotic disease. And it's absolutely critical that it's recognized that taking care of our land also ensures that we're taking care of our human race and stopping the onset of future pandemics. So I think the fact that the pandemic and its interlinkage with desertification, land degradation, and drought, and how it's affecting livelihoods, how it's not been addressed in the past 2 years is of great concern. And these are inequality multipliers in their own rights. And with the pandemic, we've seen it's just really amplified the impacts in regions and communities that were already struggling with these impacts that were caused by desertification, land degradation, and drought. So in our work, we've seen that they affect women and girls, young people, people with disabilities, older people the most, and just deepening their sufferings and pushing them deeper into this vortex of deprivation and exploitation. And what's of even greater concern is this lack of disaggregated data that really prevents this targeted and effective policymaking to address them. So if we don't have the data, how are we going to address the problem? So we see how data is usually, when it's collected, it's this top-down approach. But what we need is data collected by those working on the ground. And as a grassroots actor myself, I see firsthand how critical and how beneficial data from the ground is. So we need to really break through this vicious cycle because that has just been compounded by the pandemic. And these challenges are particularly severe in the global south and in global south communities within the global north as well. And in particular, these rural and indigenous communities. And so these are the regions where our work has been focused because our mission at Green Hope Foundation is to elevate those who are the farthest first.
Thank you so much, Kakashin. Indeed, the pandemic has really seen a lot of these issues around land restoration and drought not being tackled, and it's really something that is of great concern. Ricky, you come from a large country. I mean, India is pretty large, and you from I mean, the conversations that we've had in the past, you work or you visit a lot of rural communities. So how has desertification, land degradation, and drought affected the livelihoods of the communities that you sometimes go to visit, as you even carry out your research on what type of music to, to compose, and how has it affected the communities?
No, thank you for that question. And, I think Kekeshan has pretty much encapsulated it beautifully. So through my constant visits, into rural areas, and to also, to sensitize myself to the issues of farmers in India, and to also create music with them, I've realized that desertification and land degradation and drought not only lead to a loss of biodiversity, which all of us talk about, but also negatively affect food production, which in turn can, as we all know, it can lead to poverty, hunger, economic instability, competition for scarce land, water resources, migration, and Karnataka, the state which I live in India, is most affected by desertification in South India, and it continues to increase. And this is mainly due to deforestation and due to mining activities that happen in the forest. And agriculture is still, as all of us know, is still the backbone of India. Farmers are the most important community in India, and rapid urbanization of these fertile green lands contribute to this problem, as India's real estate boom has quite transformed hectares and hectares of land into urban infrastructure, and this land is often degraded because of that. And because of all of this, farmers end up migrating to cities to take up jobs, as they cannot cope up with the pressures of drought, of the debt that they have, and other factors, and of course low farm output due to all of this. They exacerbate food prices, and they can squeeze livelihoods. And in fact, in the last few decades itself in India, over 300,000 farmers have committed suicide due to psychological stress. So that's how deep this problem is in India.
Thank you, Ricky. Thank you so much. And indeed, land degradation, actually, desertification, drought has an impact on biodiversity, food production, which the women are actually at the core of. And so it's really, really worrying. And even as we talk about, gender equality and looking into the future, I'm really hoping that we see a change in how we tackle all these issues collectively. Your Excellency, you come from a country where we see, for example, now in Europe that there is an increase in drought. Is it something that is increasing in Finland? Is it something that is increasing within the Scandinavian countries or the sister countries, like you would call them?
So, interesting thing is that when you once years ago asked me to come to the land ambassador, so I said that we have not done desertification in Finland. And so the answer by the UN was that yes, we have those countries enough, but you know quite much also the importance of the forests and how we can fight against desertification. And that's true. So we know that our green riches is really our forests. And we know also that even in some countries, it has been misused in very badly. So in a certain sense, you can also bring back this kind of riches. And that's why we are also working with many countries that how to get forests back. And forestation is then very important also weapon against the desertification. But I would say also another issue. You all know that we live in the globalized world. So even the worst phenomena of climate change are now in different other countries than in northern countries in Europe. So we know that we are in close connection by the globalization also with the people of the very far away countries. And that we should understand also. We should understand also that all this trade between the countries could be more fair. So that it is very important that how much people can produce the food for themselves, how much they will produce just tea or coffee or so for export. We enjoy them, of course, and we should pay more higher prices for that. So that I understand that you need also the resources from export, but we should see also the importance of the local farmers, especially women, for the question of the food and sustainable food production. But yeah, that's very simply. And perhaps lastly, I could say that our flora and fauna, they are specifically integrated, learn to live in the more very northern circumstances. And then when the climate will change, and it has already changed, these animals and plants, they don't know where to go because it's no more the natural circumstances where they have lived for thousands of years.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. Really, we live in a global, we live in a global village, as a lot of people put it, and land degradation in one part of the world, desertification in one part of the world actually affects the other part of the world, whether it's in the food system, because if we have a degraded landscape in one part of the world that is producing a key component into the production of whatever food, product that needs to be produced, this then affects, of course, everybody. So I think irrespective of whether we have one part that gets affected with land degradation or desertification and drought, it will affect all of us, and it will affect the women out there and the girls. I'm going to go now to another question, which is, we're having an intergenerational dialogue. And we have President Halonen, and we have Ricky Kate, and we have Kekashin on this conversation. Is enough being done to allow for intergenerational dialogue and support? And I'm asking this question, linking it to the topic of gender, but also linking it to the topic of the issue that the UNCCD actually is trying to work on, which is land degradation, where we're trying to avoid land degradation. Is enough being done to allow for intergenerational dialogue? And support. And I will ask this question to Your Excellency: is enough being done? If you look at Finland, if you look at Europe, if you look on the global scale, are we doing enough to allow for intergenerational dialogue and support?
Of course, it's not yet enough. We have started the discussions between the generations, but I think it's important in both ways. So it is important to explain to previous generations I belong to, that what change has been already, how it has affected, and not saying that you are guilty to everything, but to say that what we have done over industrialization and all that, what kind of the consequences it has been. But it's also another way around, to tell to the younger generation, and this is the world, this is what you will do. What you will do now is your future. It will be your life. And then try to find this kind of the cooperation. And also to tell both for the younger ones and for the older ones that change is possible. And this is very important. And that how dialogue is needed in both ways. And I do hope so that you, the younger generation, the members of that when you have the new ideas and energy, and we hope that we try to encourage that you will be ready to change the world. And the life has never been very easy. And we know that, and this is experience, and we tell that we can survive, make a survival, we can recover, and also that we support you very strongly. And our country, Finland, also is doing that. We try to support the UN organizations, and also if IO that it has developed an information system to map these ways. And those who are you in Tanzania, you know that we have also the bilateral discussions and cooperation programs, and that is possible in many other countries too, and they also do that. So I think that if you are interested in forestry, so let's go on sometimes in the future that the discussion that how it will be possible to get this kind of cooperation.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. Yes, change is really possible. We are joined by Moses Mulindwa. He's a former member of parliament, he's a former parliament candidate actually in Shema municipality in Uganda, but he's also the co-founder of CYE Believe Network in Uganda, which has a vision to create climate resilient societies and to empower youth in Uganda. He's also a leader of the 2 Trees a Week initiative, which aims to regrow forests to combat deforestation and mudslides. And Moses actually did a crowdfunding, an emergency COVID-19 food fund, where he tried to raise funds for families with supporting them to, with supporting them with nutritious foods. And he's also actually our UNCCD land ambassador, who is based in Uganda. Welcome, Moses.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for an amazing introduction.
So I'm just going to give you, we will go back to the conversation, but I'll give you a minute to just tell us what you're actually doing right now in terms of the work around the CYE Believe Network and the work around reforestation and ensuring that the communities that you support have what they need.
So like I told everyone, what we do at CYE Believe is to create climate resilient societies by and also empowering young people under climate protection. Basically, what we do, we reach out to communities and we help them with smart agriculture, because we believe that they can earn a living from the agriculture they're actually doing and also protect the ecosystem. So we reach out to communities, like apparently what we are doing with a project called Greening Mama Africa. We go to communities and provide them with seedlings, vegetables, and also plant with them trees, which they care more about trees when they actually grow them with something that they know they are going to benefit from. And also we are schools and talking to students about climate change. We go to schools, talk to students about climate change, initiate them in these projects that we can actually work on with them, plant trees and talk. Yeah, basically that's what we are doing right now at CYE Believe. Going to communities like I believe everyone was talking about how we can indulge women into the decision making or the solutions with climate change. We go to communities, make sure because we understand like there is like a systematic patriarchy that actually is in our countries, more so a developing country like Uganda. So that comes with violence, gender-based violence and everything. And what we do is that we are trying to empower women because these are the people that are actually doing a lot of work on the ground, but then they are not given a chance to be part of the decision making or educators or actors in any way. So we provide them with support, which is agriculture, give them seedlings, we give them trees to make sure that they can living from the agroforestry, we call forest gardening, and basically we are literally transforming societies using agroforestry at CYE, and we believe, I think, we are going to achieve our goal of attaining climate resilient societies using agroforestry and also educate people who grow with an environmental consciousness, and they will be part of also all lobbying for policies that are actually going to be environmentally conscious.
Amazing work that you're doing there, Moses. And we're going to go back to the discussion. I mean, I've seen that you're doing a lot of work around agroforestry, reforestation, combining that with gardening within the communities that would actually provide food and working with the youths and women. This is really amazing. I will go back to the question that I asked President Halonen, and I want to ask this question to Kekashin. Is there enough being done to allow for this intergenerational dialogue? You are a woman, you are a young woman. Is there enough that is being done? And if not, what needs to be done if we can avoid this degradation wherever possible and restore land that has already been degraded?
Thank you for that question. And as a young woman working within communities affected by desertification, land degradation, and drought, I can say, based on my lived experiences, that an intergenerational approach is actually one of the key missing elements. In many of the societies we work in, elders and more so women amongst them have traditionally been the keepers of the rich knowledge about plants, animals, and the ecological processes. And that is why degradation and land loss and the consequent erosion of biodiversity has had specific impacts on women, including the losses of knowledge relating to seeds, processing, and cooking. So we have witnessed this in our work in rural communities all around the world, within the Sundarbans, the world's largest mangrove forest, for instance. And what we've seen is that we've seen the benefits of an intergenerational approach wherein we engaged with the older generation and sharing the traditional knowledge to regenerate their lands and restore natural balance. And that knowledge was then passed on to the younger generation, who then came forth with their new ideas. So you really saw how all of these ideas just came together to create better land use and more sustainable land use. So our efforts as non-state actors require scaling up, and that is really only possible with this kind of intergenerational support where we don't demonize older generations or other generations. We actually work with everyone, recognize the good in every generation, and bring together all of our unique perspectives to the table.
Awesome. I mean, the idea of working with the older generation and not demonizing the older generation to allow for learning is something that we really need to build upon. Ricky, I know that you do a lot of intergenerational work. You have an album actually that you created for the kids with conscious. Is there enough being done around this intergenerational dialogue? And then of course linking it to issues of avoiding degradation and where possible restoring the land. Is enough being done?
So yeah, I mean that there is consciousness being raised about this, and although progress is being made at a policy-making level, the general masses are just not aware of the direct effects that degradation and desertification can have on their own lives. And of course, holistically speaking, what can help is equal access to education, modern technology, supporting traditional local knowledge, respecting the sentiments of the local communities, providing funding, access to information, sanitation, empowering local communities right from the ground up. And the rapidly growing Indian middle class needs to be sensitized about the effects of desertification, as a huge portion still own agricultural lands, especially the young people, and these young people can employ safe practices such as organic farming or zero budget natural farming or sustainable agriculture, and also a check on rapid expansion of of unplanned urbanization, especially on fertile soil and fertile land, should be checked. So these are the thoughts that I have about this space.
Thank you. Moses, you are from Uganda. Is enough being done when it comes to intergenerational dialogue? I remember growing up, I would listen to stories from my grandmother. Is there enough being done when it comes to awareness raising, intergenerational knowledge transfer on issues around how do we avoid, degradation of land? How do we restore our landscapes? Is enough being done around, Uganda, but also within the continent and the interactions that you've had with young people?
The intergenerational conversation indicates that we've drawn a lot of knowledge from our elders actually, who have attained knowledge conserving the environment for these many years and perhaps centuries, which has been a winning thing for us, because we could get knowledge from the elderly. But now, because of the government policies that are actually not favoring the environment, and young people getting taught things that are actually not giving them the environmental consciousness, it's very complicated. But it's something that is, I think, when we do engage in conversations like these, and also have aid from the foreign countries by aid them to education, technology, and coming up with the way Rajiv talked about sustainable. We are talking about educating young people, because personally, when I got to know about climate change, I was at the university, and that was something that was shaming and embarrassing. But I think right now, young people are actually fighting to see that they get climate change into the education curriculum, and also engage. They are also engaging in communities to make sure that they talk to actually the elder who have some knowledge, but which is not which is not enough to equip them with more knowledge. So I think this is something that changed when we see that everyone is uniting together for one goal of saving the environment.
Thank you. We actually have our one of our themes, or one of our hashtags within the UNCCD is United for Land, because we realize that we need to be united if we have to be able to restore landscapes, if we have to ensure that there is sufficient food for the communities. I want us to go back to the discussion for today. It's International Women's Day, and we're talking about gender equality. And I'm going to ask President Halonen, Your Excellency, what has to change urgently to achieve gender equality? I think we all know that we haven't reached there yet. And my question is, taking the example of Finland, or taking the example of the European Union, what needs to happen if we have to achieve gender equality? Because we're looking into the future, and we're talking of we need to have a gender equal society. What do we need to do? So I'll ask President Halonen, and then I'll go around to ask the other panelists to be able to also respond to this question?
So I think that the most important is that we have open eyes and ears, which means that if I take an example of Finland, we were one of the first countries to give the full political rights for women. It happens at the same time with the men already 100 years ago. But then sometimes this quite glorious past has how could I say, heightened present, so that we have a lot of difficulties we should still solve. And in all systems, you have a good size and bad size, and you have to do your utmost in order to increase the positive side and diminish the negative side. So don't think that there is one miracle key which will solve all the issues. But I think so that when we speak today in International Women's Day, and especially we speak about all these climate change consequences, I could say so that let's find also the partnership in fair way, so that that we can learn from each other, not only from a certain for instance, from the EU countries to the southern countries, but also the vice versa. So, for instance, I mentioned this program in Tanzania where we have made a forestry program, so that the result total the 12,000 hectares of the new forest was established. For instance, from Finland, I know from Helsinki University that we have an agreement with Kenya, with Nairobi University. There are several others. So we have all these kind of the programs, many programs, but we have to use them also to put them in practice. And you, everywhere where you are, I think that what we should do is that we try to find which kind of the practical resources we have, what we can do, and use them. And if we then see that there are some obstacles still, so tell it and say that this doesn't work now. And so I think that already I said that legislation and tradition can be positive and negative, so that we can see that which are those valuable things we have to keep also and respect them today. What are those what we should say that was in the time upon a time, but now we need a new way. And so let's see. And I should say to you, for the younger ones, that you should read your law books also very carefully, that why the things are like they are, so that, for instance, the women would become legally also landowners, that we would see that which kind of the role the women and girls have in developing programs, are they done for them. And so I think that gender sensitive development programs could play an increasing role in this development. But you have also your own traditions, and try to see it with open eyes. So I think that that's one of the things. And then for the United Nations, I would say that the United Nations have so many sectors to work. And what I do hope so that they could have more and more cooperation, because we have always this problem of the resources. So why to do the double work? We should find the ways how, for instance, the programs of UN Women could be seen in FAO, or how could we see it in many other programs. So let's try in that way to be very smart and see that what can we do better with the same amount or the less money what we might have in many places in the future. But also, always when you make a new innovation, try to see how it works with men and women, and try to make them equal.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Kakeshin, I'm going to ask the same question to you. I mean, how is gender equality achievable, and what has to change urgently if we have to achieve gender equality?
Thank you for that question. Gender equality cannot be achieved if we just address it in using a silo-based approach. You know, we as women, we're one half of humanity, and the most urgent change that is required is is to modify the way we approach it. So this approach has to be holistic, cannot be silo-based. We must appreciate the intersectional dimension as well as the localized context that can lead to women's empowerment everywhere. So I firmly believe that education has to be the key driver, and its equitable access for both girls as well as adult learners will really be the catalyst for change, because only through education can we change archaic mindsets and bring about an acknowledgement of the issue that to achieve progress, we must first achieve gender parity and, more importantly, intersectional gender parity.
Thank you, Kekashin. Moses, I'm going to ask you the same question. You're a young man. How do you think gender equality is achievable, and what has to change most urgently if we have to achieve gender equality?
I think I'm not going to differ from the previous speaker. We need to indulge everyone in this talk, and also taking action of having gender equality. We don't have to indulge women only. We have to indulge even young people to make sure that they actually get to know what's supposed to be done or how they can support each other to achieve a gender equal partnership, if I may say. And another thing, we have to equip young girls or the elderly with education. That's something that is a very powerful tool that we have to give them. I come from Uganda, which is a third world country, and it's still developing. So very many people haven't attained education, and those that have attained education are actually like the privileged ones. So in most cases, you find because of patriarchy and other things that have been in our cultures and beliefs, women have been left out. Some are given an opportunity to go and attend school. Some are actually looked at as a source of income when it gets to bride price. I mean, that's something that is actually happening right now with the excruciating climate crisis. Everything has seemed to have gone up. Young people are actually gotten out of school. They are dropping out of school because now parents want to get them married at an early age, which is something that is surprising and something that is devastating at this day and age. Because I mean, we are in 21st century and we are seeing young people being dropping out of school because they can't access even like resources. And what these parents opt to is to actually get them married, perhaps get like 2 cattle or something like that, very small. It's something that is actually going to keep them running. I think we just need to make sure that we equip the general public with knowledge that everyone can actually be as powerful as what they actually think men can do. So I think it's time to actually equip everyone with education that we can actually be as powerful as everyone if we can get education and indulge women also into decision making, being educators. We shouldn't exclude them when it gets to critical decisions actually done for the community. I think by giving them education and helping them elevate when it gets to countries like third global south, elevating people from poverty is also something that is going to help us achieve gender equality.
Thank you so much, Moses. Ricky, I will come to you too with the same question. What needs to happen if we have to really say we have attained gender equality?
Thank you for that question. And I've noticed that when you refer to Kekeshin and Moses as young people, I see Her Excellency smiling every time you do that, because because Her Excellency is actually the youngest among all of us, at least in spirit. So, but anyway, it's a very, very important conversation. And what I wanted to first set up is that a few things that I've noticed in my country, in India, and as we all know, that it's the poorest people who are the most vulnerable to the negative effects of this situation and climate change in general, especially in communities that are really dependent on local natural resources and agriculture. And the women in these communities are disproportionately affected, as they completely rely on the income from these resources and agriculture, and as primary caregivers of the extended family. Women have to deal with additional psychological stress when there's a drop of income due to degraded land and crop loss and unpredictable weather, scarcity of water. And rural women in India are still largely responsible for securing food, water, and energy for cooking and heating. They rely on their land and forests for these resources, and desertification and degradation completely adds to this pressure. And of course, men are very quick to migrate to to larger cities, much more often at least than women. Sometimes seasonally, sometimes for a number of years, and the responsibility of actually nurturing the families and coming up with emergency funds whenever there is an emergency fall completely on the women, and even duties like farming falls on the women. So how I believe that this can change is basically, the first and foremost, in my opinion, is that there has to be equal representation of the genders. As Kekeshan very correctly put it, that 50% of the population is women. So there needs to be equal representation of the genders on all aspects of decision making from all portions of the society. So women need to be represented in all aspects of decision making. There needs to be equal access to technology, to information, education. There needs to be free and active flow of knowledge. There needs to be reducing of income disparity. There needs to be a very conscious gender focus on all projects, right from the conception stage of the projects right up to execution. There needs to be a strong gender focus, and we need to sensitize ourselves to working around deeply ingrained cultural biases, which are so prevalent, especially in a country like India, and using positive reinforcement to work with local communities, and working with their long held beliefs and traditions without enforcing the usual one size fits all approach. We need to work very closely with the local communities, understand their traditions, understand their cultures, and come up with solutions through that.
Thank you so much, Ricky. All the issues that you've all raised really are things that we need to do. We have run out of time. I still wanted us to continue with these conversations and dialogue, but we have to come to a close. So to close this discussion, I will ask Kekeshan to just give one or two remarks, and then we end the discussion for today.
For sure. Thank you. I would like to reiterate how important it is to address intersectionality of land access and rights for gender equality, and the debilitating impacts of land degradation that is exacerbated by climate change. So as a grassroots actor, we see how important it is to combine all of these issues and address it using an intersectional lens, so that it cuts across poverty reduction, food security, gender equity and development overall, and of course achieving land degradation neutrality. So rebuilding better in this context will need the substantive involvement of all stakeholders, so governments, multilateral institutions, civil society, and non-state actors such as us, so that we are able to accelerate the transition from scarcity to prosperity by facilitating land security and restoring the natural balance that's so grossly disturbed in most developing economies and in global south communities within the global north. And as our endeavors prove, it is up to us as responsible human beings to catalyze this change and achieve land degradation neutrality and a gender equal world. So I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I will repeat again. The UNCCD has really recognized the central role that the women play when it comes to sustainable land management, when it comes to drought mitigation and land restoration. And I'm hoping, and I hope that we continue to work with you as our land heroes, as our land ambassadors. We will take this discussion of this online conversation, and I'm hoping that we will have more dialogues with you, the land heroes and the land ambassadors, and to explore how we can really create impact on the planet that we live in. So I want to thank you all for joining us today for the International Women's Day dialogue with our UNCCD land ambassadors and land heroes. And I wish you all a good day, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you so much.